Hello, you guys, and welcome back to Hot Girls Eat Carbs. I'm your host, Brittany McChrystal, and this is your cozy corner of the internet where we chat all things health, wellness, and sustainable weight loss. I hope that you are all having a wonderful week so far. So we have a really exciting week coming up. I'm recording this literally before I go to the airport because I'm off to Thailand today. I'm so excited. I genuinely haven't been back in what feels like forever, and Melbourne winter has seriously taken off. Like, it is so cold. If you were to feel my hands right now, they are like ice cold. It's honestly taken me out. I have been down bad. I need some sunshine. I need some humidity. I need my hair to go frizzy. I just need a tan, okay? I'm gonna be sitting in the sun for sure. Josh is actually going over with a few of his friends, and I got invited, which is surprising. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I'm looking forward to also catching up with some of my friends over there, getting some training sessions in, eating some incredible food. I'm sorry if this is making anybody a little bit jealous right now. I actually shut up because I know how I'm feeling with everybody going to Europe, and I'm like, oh, I just wish I could be in Europe, but hey. So anyway, let's not talk about it too much actually. But speaking of food though, it's actually what this episode was all about this week. So I feel like my recipe content has been popping off recently like crazy, and every time one of those videos takes off, my DMs are flooded with the same questions. They're like, how do you make these meals so healthy? What makes them higher in protein? How do you eat all of this and lose weight? What should I actually be eating if I'm trying to lose fat? And honestly, I get it. Nutrition has become so confusing. One person is telling you to cut carbs, someone else is telling you to avoid fat, another person is saying that fruit has too much sugar, and then somehow potatoes are also the enemy too. No wonder people have no idea what to eat anymore. So I thought today's episode would be a perfect opportunity to strip it all back and give you Nutrition 101. So we're going to talk about the foods that actually help fat loss become a lot easier, why protein matters so much, and why I'm such a big believer in volume eating, how I recreate all of my favorite meals into healthier, high protein versions. I know that so many people want to know the tea, and all of these things have just made my 27 kilo weight loss journey so much easier. I don't believe that you need to survive on chicken and broccoli and sadness to lose weight, and I genuinely think that you can eat food that tastes amazing, keeps you full, fits your calories, and actually makes you excited to stick with your goals. So grab your coffee, head on your walk. So grab your coffee, head out on your walk, or chuck this on while you're meal prepping, and let's get into it. However, before we're going to get into the whole thing, if anybody has been loving this podcast recently and you have not liked or rated the show, it would be amazing if you could do that for me. It's how this podcast grows, and it's how it gets out to new listeners. Here is the thing when people can have an opinion all over the internet these days. As soon as you open TikTok, someone is literally yelling at you saying carbs will make you fat. Or you open Instagram and someone is yelling at you that seed oils are the problem. Then another person is saying fruit has too much sugar, and somebody else is terrified of bread. And then suddenly you're standing in Woolworths wondering if you're allowed to eat a banana. I've been there because I've spent years thinking I have to eat grilled chicken, broccoli, and rice forever if I wanted to lose weight. And it was pretty miserable. And every single time I'd be good for a few weeks, and then I'd face plant into a family block of chocolate because I couldn't do it anymore. And everything actually changed when I stopped asking, what foods am I allowed to eat? And I started asking, how can I make the foods I already love work for my goals? And so today I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. Now, this is a good episode because this is one that I've never ever spoken about before. So tune in, take some notes, and keep this one on. I think one of the biggest myths in the fitness industry is that there are foods that can burn fat. And I'm here to tell you that there is absolutely not. Chicken doesn't magically melt fat, broccoli isn't special, rice isn't bad, and bread is not evil. Weight loss comes down to being in a calorie deficit. Now, before you switch off, because you've heard this all before, calories are only one piece of the puzzle. Because yes, technically you can lose weight with it. Because technically, yes, you can lose weight eating chocolate. Would you feel good? No. Would you be starving? Absolutely. Would you be able to stick with it? Probably not. Instead of asking, how do I eat fewer calories? I want you to ask, how do I eat fewer calories while staying full and enjoying my meals? Now, this is the 3 things that every single meal needs. I honestly keep nutrition super simple. Every meal I build starts with 3 questions. Where is my protein? This is the first thing I look for because protein does so much of the heavy lifting when you're trying to lose fat. Firstly, it keeps you fuller for longer. If you've ever eaten a bowl of cereal for breakfast and been starving an hour later, but then had eggs on toast and you stayed full until lunch, that is protein doing its job. It also helps preserve your muscle mass while you're losing body fat. And when you're in a calorie deficit, you don't just want the number on the scale to go down. You want to lose fat and not the muscle that you've worked so hard to build. And out of the 3 macronutrients, protein is the most filling. It makes sticking to a calorie deficit so much easier because you're not constantly thinking about your next meal. So some of my go-to protein sources are chicken breast, Greek yogurt, eggs, lean beef mince, prawns. Prawns are fabulous because they're super low calorie and very high in protein. Cottage cheese is another amazing one, tofu, and protein pasta. You probably also noticed that I don't eat plain grilled chicken and broccoli every day either. I build my meals around ingredients that make them taste good. So the number 2 is, where are my carbs? This one makes people laugh because I'm literally known as the girl who says hot girls eat carbs, and I genuinely mean it. Carbs are not the villain. They're not the reason people gain weight. Eating more calories than your body burns over time is what causes weight gain. Carbohydrates are your body's preferred source of energy. They're what fuels your workouts, your walks, your busy work days, and honestly, they're also what fuels your brain. When people cut carbs really low, they often notice that they're more tired, and they struggle to train as hard and just don't feel like themselves. Carbs also play a huge role in recovery. If you're strength training, running, or even just trying to stay active, carbohydrates replenish your energy stores so you can actually perform well again tomorrow. So some of my favorite carb sources are rice, potatoes, wraps, pasta, fruit, bread, and oats. The goal isn't to remove carbs, it's to use them strategically. I build every meal around protein first, and then I add carbs based on what I'm doing that day. If I'm about to train, I'll make sure I have a good serving of carbs. If I'm going for a long walk, I'll include them. If it's dinner after a workout, absolutely. Carbs aren't something to fear, they're something to use. And when you stop seeing them as the enemy and start seeing them as fuel, eating for fat loss becomes so much easier. And the third to balancing my plate is, where is my color? This is probably the easiest habit that can make the biggest difference. I try to at least include 1 serving of fruit or vegetables in nearly every meal. They're so great at building volume. Volume is one of the biggest reasons I've been able to lose 27 kilos and keep it off. Think about it. You could eat a handful of chips in about 30 seconds and still feel hungry. Or you could fill half your plate with roasted veggies or a big salad, and then suddenly your meal is twice the size for barely any extra calories. The more food you eat for fewer calories, the easier fat loss becomes. Fruit and vegetables are naturally high in fiber and water, which means they take up more space in your stomach, and they help you feel physically full and keep you satisfied for longer. And on top of that, they are packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber that support everything from digestion and gut health to your energy levels and recovery. Some easy ways I add color are berries in my breakfast, banana with my oats, tomato and spinach in my wraps, cucumber and lettuce in burgers, stir-fry vegetables with rice, broccoli, carrots or zucchini with dinner, and a side salad if the meal needs a little bit more volume. And here is the thing. I don't force myself to eat vegetables I hate. If you only like carrots, cucumber, and broccoli, perfect. Eat those. The healthiest diet is the one that you're actually going to stick to. Which leads me perfectly into what I think the biggest mistake is that people try to do when they're trying to lose weight. They focus on eating less instead of eating smarter. If you've followed me for a while, you know that I talk about volume eating constantly. Honestly, if there was one nutrition strategy I wish every woman knew, it would be this. Volume eating simply means eating a larger amount of food for fewer calories. So instead of trying to survive on tiny portions, I ask myself, how can I make this meal bigger without making it too much higher in calories? For example, around 200 calories of chocolate is gone in about 6 bites. Don't get me wrong, I love chocolate and I still eat it, but let's be honest, it doesn't exactly fill you up. Not compared to around 200 calories worth of potatoes. You can have a massive serving that fills your entire plate, same calories and a different level of fullness. That's why I build my meals around foods that naturally have high volume. So, potatoes, huge salads, fruits, vegetables, air popped popcorn, berries, Greek yogurt. These foods are genuinely high in water, fiber, or both, which means that you can eat a lot more of them before the calories start adding up. And psychologically, this matters more than people actually realize. Your stomach doesn't actually know how many calories you've eaten. As food enters your stomach, your stretch receptors send signals to your brain that you're getting full. So when you eat foods that physically take up more space, you're genuinely going to feel more satisfied than if you've eaten a tiny calorie dense meal. That's why someone can eat a handful of nuts in 30 seconds and still be looking for something else. But after a giant bowl of Greek yogurt with berries or a huge baked potato with lean protein and salad, they feel comfortably full. It's also why I don't believe in eating meals that leave you hungry an hour later. Fat loss isn't about seeing how little you can eat. It's about creating meals that keep you full enough that sticking to your calorie target actually feels achievable. The goal isn't to eat less food. The goal is to eat more food for fewer calories. Because when you stop fighting your hunger and you start working with it, staying consistent becomes so much easier. Okay, so you're now probably thinking, okay, Britt, but how do I actually make these meals? Because it's one thing for me to say it, just eat more protein. But it's another thing to actually turn your favorite meals into something you genuinely look forward to eating. So I'm going to let you in on something. I don't make healthy food. I make normal food healthier. That is literally the entire reason I've been able to lose 27 kilos without feeling like I was on a diet. I'm not sitting here eating boiled chicken and broccoli while everybody else has burgers. I'm making the burger work for my goals. Every recipe I create follows the exact same 4-step process. How can I make it higher in protein? Can I reduce my unnecessary calories? Can I add volume? And does it still taste amazing? And that is what makes everything so sustainable. I don't want you eating foods that you can't tolerate. I want you eating foods that you'll happily choose even when fat loss wasn't your goal, because that is how you stop being on a diet and start eating this way for life. Now, I want to finish today's episode with this. I don't want you to close this episode and think, right, from Monday I'm cutting out carbs, sugar, takeaways, and every food I enjoy. Because that is exactly the cycle that keeps so many women stuck. You go all in, you last a week, maybe 2, life gets busy, you have one meal off plan, and then suddenly you convince yourself that you've failed and you're back at square one. I want you to ask yourself this simple question. How can I make one meal this week a little bit better? Not perfect, just better. Maybe that's adding an extra serving of protein with your breakfast. Maybe it's swapping the sour cream for Greek yogurt. Maybe it's adding vegetables to your pasta so the bowl is twice the size. It's measuring your oil instead of pouring straight from the bottle. Maybe it's recreating your favorite takeaway from home. Because here's what I've learned after coaching thousands of women. The women who keep the weight off aren't the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones who make small decisions over and over again until those decisions become who they are. Fat loss isn't about replacing every food you love. It's about making smart swaps that your favorite meals start working for your goals instead of against them. And before you know it, you're eating meals you genuinely enjoy. You're feeling full and you're no longer thinking about food 24/7. And you're getting the results without feeling like you're constantly on a diet. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd absolutely love it if you could leave a quick rating or review. It genuinely helps the podcast reach more women who are sick of dieting and are ready to build something that actually lasts. So if you know somebody who's convinced that they have to give up bread, pasta, or chocolate to lose weight, send them this episode. It might save them years of making weight loss harder than it needs to be. And for any recipe inspo, you can head over to my TikTok or Instagram pages. It's just Brittany McCrystal. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.